Hello and welcome. My name is Lance, and the name of the show is Painting the Cape. We're going to be painting Cape Cod, all the iconic scenes of the Cape. So grab your paints and come along and paint along with me. I start off by doing the horizon line. If I'm looking down on a scene, the horizon line has to be high on the canvas. What I'm using to draw with is burnt sienna, and the reason I use burnt sienna on this particular case is because it's transparent, and if I make a mistake and I just need to wipe it off, it comes off really easy. So I just use a rag and just block in the painting. I pre-mix all my colors as close as I can to the scene that I want to arrive at. Today we're painting Quissett Harbor. That's a little harbor halfway between Falmouth and Woods Hole. I'm relating everything to that horizon line. The foreshortening of the little building and different things all are in perspective to the horizon line. Quissett Harbor is a cute little harbor with lots of summer activity. So this is a little dock that we're doing with a few dinghies here. Now I'm not locked into painting exactly what I see. It's kind of a combination of what I see and making a nice design. If I have to move a boat over or add a boat, whatever I have to do to make the design work, that's what I do. So now, once I've got the drawing in, then I jump right in on the color. And I'm painting this painting in about 25 minutes, which means I really have to crank. And so that's why I pre-mix too, because if you're painting outside and let's say you're close to sunset, the light moves really quickly. And so you really have to stay ahead of it. Otherwise, you end up chasing the light and keep changing your painting. Once I've decided on a design, I stick with it and just make the painting work. So the first thing I do is paint what's furthest away, the sky. And I basically make it in different shapes. And then later on, I'll take my rag and I'll just blend the different shapes together. Now what I did on this particular scene, I made it so it's closer to sunset. Besides designing the shapes, I'm designing the different colors so they work together. I try not to get too many colors in there's three things that a color can do. It can give you the different color, the different hue, or it can be light or dark, or it can be strong or weak. And I try to use all three of these to my advantage. So I premix my sky color and my watercolor, and then if I have to adjust afterwards, then I do. But I just try to get the canvas completely covered. I start off with a kind of a gray canvas. That way I can go in any direction and it'll be harmonious. Gray is kind of the in-between. Like if you're going from red to green, you'll go red and then it'll, as it gets duller, it'll go to gray, and then you'll be able to pick up the green. So gray is really the glue that holds the painting together. Now, if I want something to stand out, then I make sure that the background of that is dark. So to have light in a painting, you have to make it dark. If you want something to be dark in a painting, you got to make the background light. And that also is the case in parts of the painting. So the whole thing while you're painting is you're really doing a lot of designing. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's like going fishing. Sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't. But there's nothing better than going outside and painting, because the light outside is so true, and it's hard to beat natural light. I'm just using a rag here to block most of the color in. I just use my finger, and the reason I'm doing this is because it's really quick, and if you need a fresh place on the rag, you just move your finger a little bit, and then you got a fresh start. You don't have to worry about cleaning your brush and this, that, and the other. Now, when I get closer to more details and stuff, then I switch over to a brush. But I start off with just with a rag, and I make sure that I've got my gloves on, because a lot of this paint is nasty stuff. And that way it makes it easy cleanup. I just take my gloves off. If I'm in doubt on what color I'm seeing, then what I do is I try to get the value right in gray, because then I can bend it or add more red or green, and on my paints, the paints that I use basically three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue. And on each color I have a warm red, like a fire red, a cool red like a alizarin crimson, and a dull red like a burnt sienna. And same thing with yellow. I'll use a warm yellow, which is kind of an orangish yellow, and I'll use a cool yellow, which is kind of like a lemon yellow. It's got a little green in it. And then I'll use a neutral or a dull yellow, which is like a yellow ochre. And same thing with blue. I'll use, for the warm blue, I'll use like a turquoise, which is real warm. It's almost a greenish blue. And then for a cooler blue, I'll use ultramarine blue, which is has more red in it. And then for a dull blue, I'll use a gray. Gray and black, they react like blue paint does. So if you mix, like if you want to make green, you mix yellow and blue together. But if you also mix black and yellow, you'll get a green. So black and gray always feel and go towards the blue. Of course, the main thing in the painting is the value, how the values relate to each other. Now I'm going to move over to a brush because things are getting closer together and it's kind of hard to do the small stuff with a rag. Sometimes I'll use just a Kleenex or a paper towel, but the only thing is, if the surface is rough, then you get a lot of little bits and pieces of the towel or the Kleenex, and so I use a rag instead. I keep in mind, I try to figure out which way the sun is coming from, the light is coming from, and try to hit the different sections of the painting with the light. I try to simplify the painting as much as I can because I find if I get too fussy with it and put all these small little details in there, it loses the strength. Now what I'm doing now, I'm taking the palette knife and just using the very edge of it with a bright color like a yellow in this case, and to draw the eye across the water to the distant shore there. Also, what I'm doing on the little shed here is I'm doing a fine line around kind of a rim lighting around the outside and also the top there. The palette knife is a great tool. You really have to learn how to use the brush, the palette knife, and the rag to be able to draw with. Really what you're doing when you're painting, you're drawing. So if you need to improve your drawing, that's the main thing that you can do to help your painting. But you have to learn how to draw with a brush or a palette knife or a rag. I'm putting a couple sailboats out here in the distance. And that dark background makes the sailboats read better. And I put one close and then one further away to again pull the eye back into the painting. You want to try to control the viewer's eye to pull him in a certain direction. Now, painting these little figures, I'm basically just worrying about a silhouette. And so I picture a little man and some pilings, and he's standing close on the end of the dock there, waiting for his friend to come in on the boat. Now what I do is there's light from the sun, and then there's light from the sky. And so if I have a dark passage someplace, like the shadow side of this shed, I'll take a slightly lighter blue and go over that to give it a feeling that the sky is reflecting. Here's a little man inside the boat there. I usually have one figure to start off with, and then I'll key all the other figures to match that size. Now that the figure that's in the boat is down and further away, so he's smaller, so it's in perspective. And once again, on that distant hill over there, I'm putting some colors in there that perhaps the sun is hitting against that distant hill, and that gives it more of a solid feeling. Now I'm trying to catch the light on these little pilings here. What's nice about oil paint, excuse me, is that you can, if you make a mistake, you can just wipe it off with a rag and a little bit of I use terpenoid. It's odorless turpentine. So you can change your painting 1,000 times and until you get it the way you want. I find that oil painting is the easiest medium to use, where watercolor is the hardest, because once you put the paint in there on the surface, it sinks in and you can't change it. So this, if I mess up, I'll just keep changing it until I get it the way I want. Now, once I have the general shapes blocked in, then the next big step is doing the edges, which is the part that's next to each shape. I blend them into the other color just around the edge to soften those edges. So we have basically 4 different kinds of edges. You have a real sharp edge like you would see on that shed there, from the dark to the light. And then you'll have a soft edge where you can barely tell the difference between, like if you look in the sky up to the right, to our right, you notice that light area going to the yellow, there's barely an edge there. That's a real soft edge. And then you have a broken edge, which is, you take some of the color and you just push it right through the change of shapes. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm doing surface texture. If I'm doing water, I start off with the basic tones of the water and make a simple shape. And then I'll apply another coat of paint over that to where the light hits the water. And then I might even add another shape of the dark parts where the light doesn't hit that exactly little ripple. This right here that I'm painting now is it's a big winch or something, I guess, to help rig different sailboats and things. And then I'm going to put a little shadow on the shed where it hits. Now, once again, you know, it really comes down to design. If you went to Quissett Harbor and you looked at this scene, I'm leaving out a lot of things. Like there is some kind of a cooler, a big ice maker or something next to that shed, but I'm simplifying the shapes, and then I can add details to where I want, but you pick and choose so it doesn't confuse the design. So now I add little dark spots. The light's not hitting, and the water's a little deeper. The paintings seem to always come out better if I just do the blocking in, design the simple shapes first and get those down to where I want them to be, and then everything falls in place. But if I try to get picky on little details at the beginning, I lose the unity of the painting. Put a little shadow here where the boat is casting a shadow on the dock here. I try to use the biggest brush I can get away with for a particular part of the painting. Instead of using a real fine little brush, and I'm going for the big shapes and then smaller shapes and smaller shapes until I end up with a completed painting. Now I'm softening this edge with a little warm tone from the sun. And you got to know when to stop. Sometimes if you're starting to get in trouble and the painting is starting to turn the corner on you and just doesn't look what you're hoping to get, it's best to stop, give it a break, and come back to it the next day. Or when you take it back to your studio, look at the painting and figure out what you can possibly do to improve it. Whenever I chase a painting too much, I always crash the thing. Okay, there we have it. There's a shot of my palette again. I try to do 2 darks and 2 lights of the basic colors that I'm going to use, like the sky color, the watercolor, and so forth. I've noticed that the sailboats need a little bit more strength in the sail, especially the one that's closest to you. As things get closer to you, they get stronger contrast, and as they go further away, it's less. I'm finding that working fast like this makes me just get down as much as I can and then just walk away, because it's easy to, get stuck on something and you just keep going until you wreck the thing. Anyway, that just about does it. Oh, I gotta keep going here. You see something else. Yeah, I'm trying to increase the contrast of these little boats down below. Let's put a little stronger blue on the rim. More contrast. The good thing about a palette knife is you can wipe it off and it's clean. It's ready to go. You don't get muddy colors and stuff. Okay, someone stop me. I'm doing too much now. Okay, I think that should do it. Okay, thank you so much for coming. I hope you get your paints out, and next time I'm out painting or you see me painting, come by and say hello and paint along with me. See you next time.